Moving on, be it plastics, pollutants or pernicious fishing practices, we're increasingly told that our oceans are at risk. The UN warns that fish could disappear from our seas altogether by the year 2050 unless more is done to change policies and attitudes when it comes to the marine world. Well, one woman is determined to make those changes. That's our perspective guest today. Her name is Claire Nouvian, the founder of the Bloom Association, who in April was awarded the prestigious Goldman Environmental Prize. Thank you for being with us here on France 24. First of all, many congratulations on that win. First of all, just talk us through why you were honoured with that award and what it meant to receive it.
Well, we received the Goldman Environmental Prize because of the achievement that we accomplished by getting deep-sea bottom trawling banned in Europe with colleagues from the Deep Sea Conservation Coalition. We worked really hard for 8 years. It was a fight with industrial lobbies and corrupt politics. But we managed to get, the worst form of fishing. It's deep-sea bottom trawling. It's trawling, it's towed gear, destroys everything. It's an absolute ecological nightmare. And it's also subsidized. And it wouldn't even occur if it weren't for public subsidies that are granted from EU taxpayers' money. It's absolutely madness. So that we got banned, which is really good.
So an EU ban on that practice is now in place, but presumably your fight on that issue doesn't end just there. You're trying to get it banned elsewhere, presumably.
Well, actually, we're moving on to more, detrimental EU rulings because in the meantime, while we were busy, fighting deep-sea bottom trawl industries and so on, what the European Commission was doing, it was very perniciously actually giving the right to fish with electricity, which was banned in Europe in 1998. And in 2006, the European Commission actually completely arbitrarily decided that they could give derogations, so like an exemption regime, just to save the Dutch beam trawl completely bankrupt industry. So we're now again fighting absolute madness. You were mentioning the fact that we could actually be emptying our ocean, and electricity is making that nightmare become true. We have the technological means to empty the ocean, and you know what? We're doing it in Europe as we're speaking. So public authorities are actually very determiningly giving the money, public money, to the worst fishing practices. We've got amazing fishermen in Europe, in the UK, East Anglia, in France, in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in Germany, name it. We've got amazing fishing practices which are sustainable, selective, family-owned businesses. And these people, the best practices in Europe, are going down because of corrupt, morally corrupt public politics, public policies also. It just doesn't make sense.
But away from fishing practices, you've also found that industrial-style fishing has had a negative impact on fishing communities and ports.
And that's what's happening. It's a social bloodbath. And we're seeing that the small-scale fishermen, coastal fishers who go out for a day, right? This is what we think when we think of fishing, right? You imagine a fisherman that goes out fishing and he comes back at night or in the morning and he sells the product of his work. And now these people are going down. They're going bankrupt by the day, actually, as we're speaking, just because our politicians, the European Commission, number one, and the Dutch government are such accomplices of what's happening with the power, the absolutely over-representation, which is not correlated to the importance because of the fishing industry. The fishing industry is contributing to emptying the ocean and to destroying our jobs, our coastal economies. And that's not stopped by public authorities, it's actually encouraged with public money, yet again. It's madness. So we're up against this major fight because we think they'll expand. Once they've emptied the ocean here, what will they do? Just you bet. They'll go to Africa or Indian Ocean just to do it again. They'll kill jobs everywhere. We had no understanding of how bad electric fishing was until we really started digging. And the more we dig, the uglier the case is. We've got financial scandals, corrupt decision-making, all of it.
You've also been pushing for people like you and myself to maybe eat less fish. Why is that? Or be more selective about what kind of fish we eat?
Exactly. We believe that first we need to be a little rational and reasonable with what we eat. So it's just too much meat, too much fish, right? That's not good for our health. It's not good for the world. And it's unfair because, of course, we eat so much compared to large parts of the rest of the world. So it's just going back to reason. And then when it comes to fishing, when it's very complex to understand so many different species out there, you're not going to become a fish expert, and actually, nor am I, right? It's impossible to choose between 140 different fish stocks, So what we say is that please become aware of what fishing gear is good for the environment and socially as well. So we want to have the most positive impact on jobs and on the environment simultaneously. And that can be done if you choose the most selective gear. They're called passive gear because they're not towed gear. They don't destroy the environment. They're usually more selective. And so the gear is not compulsory in Europe, at least. You have to mention the gear with which you caught your fish. So I think we should go for gear. So on the Bloom website, we put up a gear little sort of guide so that people would at least not know the fish, but at least know which gear they should select.
Just a very quick note, the UN marked a World Environment Day early this week, and the issue of plastic in the world's oceans was very much high up their agenda. What recommendations do you give about the levels of plastic being pumped into our seas every day, every week?
Well, our biggest worry is that we're not going to stop the plastic pollution until we really put in place some very good solutions to collect the plastic, right? What we need is to collect the plastic. So of course, reduce, reuse, recycle, the 3R rules, they always work, but also make sure that we have a sort of value chain which valorizes, and values plastic at its real value. We need to collect plastic before it enters the food chain. And because that's true of everything, right? I mean, if you have a plastic production which doubles every 10 years, it's like Sisyphus myth, right? You can always be, and it's endless. So we need to make sure that we reduce the plastic production and consumption, but also collect and value plastics before it enters the food chain.
Okay, Claire Nouvian, the founder of the Bloom Association. That's all we have time for. But thank you very much for coming and talk to us here on France 24. Thank you very much.